left off last week in chapter 6, verses 22 and 23. So let's read those real quick. Joshua said unto the two men who had spied out the land, Go unto the harlot's house and bring the woman and all she has out of there, as you have sworn to her. So the young men who were spies went and brought out Rahab and her father and her mother and her brothers and all she had. They also brought out all her relatives and placed them outside the camp of Israel. Now, if you remember, the spies had cohorted with the harlot, and what was their agreement? They would spare her if yes. And what else? If she didn't say anything. Okay? And they were, as Steve said, they were to, she was to be designated by that piece of cloth hanging from the window, so that they would know that that was the household and not to do anything to the people of that household. Her house was part of the wall, if you remember reading. Okay? So they said, the scripture said that she was to tie that ribbon from the window which they had fled out of, which I assume had to be on the back, or the back of the house outside of the wall. So anyhow, that would distinguish her household, so they would know that that was the woman that they had an agreement with. She was delivered from destruction just as the two spies had promised her. Joshua ordered the spies who could correctly identify Rahab by the red cord hanging in her window, go to the harlot's house and bring out the woman, all she had out of there as they had sworn to her. The spies did as they were told. They brought Rahab and her father and her mother and her brothers and all that she had. All that she had probably does not refer to her belongings, okay? Just her family, and her family in particular. All the people living in her house. The spies also brought out her relatives, which was probably referred to her extended family, that is, relatives by marriage and also dependents. The young men placed them outside the camp of Israel. Rahab and her family were Gentiles and were set apart until they could be properly and lawfully initiated into the religion and community of Israel. While it is not stated in the text, Rahab left her life of prostitution and became a follower of God. That is what she would have to have done to be in order to live a life that was pleasing to God. Now, and there again, it says it doesn't say. I think it is entirely safe to assume she did all this when the spies approached her in order to do what? Save herself and to save her family. So I think it stands to reason as we move on to assume that she was going to follow through with that, because she had showed that and made that agreement to begin with. In other words, could she have continued to live the life that she had previously been living? I don't. Yes. Well, she couldn't then have followed the Lord, right? So I think it's say if she's gone on to all this trouble to make this agreement with the spies and to make sure her family was safe, to make sure her family didn't face the fate of the rest of the people, that I think it makes sense that she realized it was a time and point in her life where she needed to change her ways, okay? Because she couldn't have been lawfully accepted, okay, without having to have done that. Not that it says that, but I think it's pretty plain by her actions. All right, let's go on to verse 24. All right, they burned the city with fire and all that was in it. Only the silver, gold, and articles of bronze and iron they put into the treasury of the house of the Lord. However, Rahab the harlot and her father's household and all she had, Joshua spared, and she lived in the midst of the Israelites to this day. She hid the messengers whom Joshua sent to spy out Jericho. Then Joshua made them take an oath at that time, saying, Cursed before the Lord is the man who rises up and builds this city, Jericho, with the loss of his firstborn, and shall lay its foundation, and with the loss of his youngest son, he shall set up its gates. So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame was in all of the land. Now, what happened was this city of Jericho, were there anybody that continued to dwell there after this? Okay, all right. If you look a little deeper in it, it suggests, or the opinion is, that they were still outer buildings and outpost types of things that weren't destroyed, and the commentaries state that it was not a violation for people to inhabit those structures, okay? It was a violation to rebuild it. So anything that was left, the people were able to continue on and dwell in those. So there were still some structures left in didn't say in, but about the city of Jericho, and they were able to inhabit those places. It was a thought of it was the point of rebuilding that city as it once had been. Any questions about chapter 6? All right. As Joshua had promised, he spared Rahab's entire family because of the situation with the spies. All her people of her father's household escaped the destruction of Jericho, while her material possessions did not. When the destruction of Jericho was complete, Joshua made the Israelites take an oath. All Israel declared, Cursed before the Lord is the man who rises up and builds the city of Jericho. This did not prohibit the habitation of the site with existing structures, outer structures that were not destroyed. small group of houses at the location or in the vicinity would not have violated the curse. Rather, the people were prohibited from constructing the city back to its fortified state and would be punished with death of their children should they attempt such construction. Every Israelite understood. If they were to attempt, so do you think the Lord was going to allow that to happen to begin with? No. He wasn't going to allow that to happen, okay? By whatever means, okay? He wasn't going to allow it. And I submit to you that having your children killed was a pretty good deterrent, I would think, for most people. Certainly it would to us. So Jericho is destroyed. Rahab and her family are out, not her possessions, okay? But they are out. They were safe. They were not destroyed with the rest of the population of Jericho. Why do you think outside looking in, us as humans dealing with the reality of things? Some of the stuff we read in the Bible's harsh, is it not? I mean, harsh punishments, and just like the destruction of Jericho. Yes. Do you think that perhaps the reason for that and the literal application is for the purpose of I said yea, or I said nay? There are no exceptions, all right? And sometimes, based on things we deal with in society, sometimes you have to go to an extreme before people ever hear you. They don't hear you a lot of times trying to be nice, trying to be thoughtful about things. Right? People don't, unfortunately, they don't hear those things sometimes. And you have to go to an extreme just to get people's attention. And I'd submit to you some things we read about in the Bible are an extreme as we see it from a human point of view. All right? But what is the intent and what is the purpose of that? Just to get it, I'm sorry? To teach and to make sure everybody understands. And do we see that throughout the Bible? Sure. What about when they were carrying the Ark of the Covenant? Stumbled. What happened? Struck him dead. I said, don't touch it. Now, I submit to you, all right, that, and it was just like that what he done. And I submit to you, if they went to stumble and he was fearful that this sacred object was fixing to fall and hit the ground, I could see myself. Huh? What did he say? I told you not to touch it. There weren't any exceptions. Don't touch it. It's literal. It is all literal. What about, yes? I can't think. I'm drawing a blank. That happens. I'm sorry? Yeah. What about, what's the lady's name that turned and looked back? Turned a pillar. Yes, yes. Turned a pillar of salt. Okay? Don't turn around and look. A little bit. All right? He's literal in everything he says. You know, and we see furthermore in Revelations, you know, what does Revelations teach us? All right? If we add to the things that are written in this book, what's he going to add to us? Plagues. We take away from the things that are written in this book, he's going to take away our name from where? Book of Life. Now, that's pretty serious. Okay? And the point being, anything we do, or anything we add, or anything we leave out that changes the meaning and the picture of his word is what? It's wrong. He is literal. He is literal. So there are examples throughout the Bible that we read all the time. All right, let's get into chapter 7. Israel is defeated by Ai. Something is amiss. Verse 1. Excuse me. Verse 1, but the sons of Israel acted unfaithfully in regard to the things under the ban. For Achan, the son of Carmi, and the son of Zabdiah, and the son of Zerah from the tribe of Judah took some of the things under the ban. Therefore the anger of the Lord burned against the sons of Israel. Y'all, I'm going to tell you some of these names and names of places in here make me sound like a kindergartner trying to talk. I don't know if it happens to anybody else, but it happened to me. So now what do you think those soldiers and the rest of the Israelites are thinking when they were defeated by Ai? I'm sorry? Where's God at? What happened here? Because God had promised what? He was with them, and that no one would be able to stand against them. And now, this. Can you imagine being in that position? What kind of thoughts you think was running through their mind? Well, he did what he said he wasn't going to do. He's abandoned us. I think that's totally reasonable that someone would think that or come to that conclusion. Okay? Now, of course, the people at that point had no clue why this had happened. All right? Nobody knew. Okay? There was a reason for it. Okay? And the reason is that some of the banned items were taken, like he said, don't do it. Don't touch it. Everything is to be destroyed except for gold, the silver, the iron, which were to be deposited into the treasury of the Lord, and everything else was to be destroyed. Okay? All that wasn't went to where? Treasury of the Lord. Not in the tent of Achan, buried up under the sand. So they were defeated because of this, And everybody's clueless at that point as to why. Now, that is completely opposite of our reasoning and concept of things today. All right? Or if you steal it, then you're the one that's going to answer for that, not the whole congregation. Okay? Would we say, human side of us, looking back at that, is that fair to everybody? Troy steals it, and you get punished for it. Is that fair? You would think not. There again, I submit to you again. What was the reason? Now that I've got everybody's attention, all right, he wanted that attention, and he wanted things followed out to the letter as he had explained it. Now, do you think people looking back or looking into that realize how literal he meant things at that point? You would think so, right? You would think so. The whole nation of Israel were punished because of one person's actions. One and only. Oh, all right. Where am I at? Where am I at? All right. 3 points that we should bring out here. The sin of Achan, the anger of God, and God's judgment against Israel. Achan's violation of the ban would have disastrous corporate consequences for the nation. Achan compromised Israel's relationship with God. Treachery, that is a breach of trust, usually against the Lord. Therefore, Achan's sin involved much more than the theft. It revealed contamination in the nation of Israel, for one of the citizens had violated the covenant with God. The idea is consistent, like we see in Deuteronomy and 1 Corinthians. Yeah, could have been. I use several commentaries. I don't remember which one. But one of the commentaries suggested, because as we read on, what happened to Achan's family? Everybody died. Everybody was stoned to death. All his family, all that he had was stoned to death. Then what happened? They piled up what? Piled up rocks over it, okay? The whole family. And, you know, I've had this discussion with people thinking, oh, that's kind of, you know, why then? Well, the suggestion is that how can all of those people live in that tent and not know something? Okay? I don't think it would be normal to, and I don't know, I don't think it'd be normal to dig a hole in the middle of your tent. What do you need to dig a hole for? Right? He did that to hide it. Okay? Now, how could the rest of the people and his family not know? It could be, but I submit to you some did. And I think that those that did would have probably had something to say to the rest of them. You know, maybe not the children, you know, were there young children that were incapable of understanding? Who knows? Point is, he was literal, okay? Not only did the whole nation of Israel suffer by the loss of the soldiers, all right, but his whole family suffered by being stoned to death, right? Everything that he had, everything that he had. And it spreads because not only he and his family suffered because of that, the nation of Israel suffered because, what about those, how many soldiers was it, 30, 36? What about the soldiers and their families? They suffered because of their death. So it's far-reaching, all right? It's far-reaching. And the only reason that those soldiers died was why? Achan. Period.com. All right? That was the only reason. So everybody suffered. Everybody suffered. Those that weren't guilty, those that even had no clue what was going on. Those people and those families suffered from the sins of one man. Verse 2 through 5. Now Joshua sent men from Jericho to Ai, which is near Beth-aven, east of Bethel, and said to them, go up and spy out the land. So the men went up and spied out Ai. They returned to Joshua and said to him, do not let all the people go up. Only 2,000 or 3,000 men need to go up to Ai. Do not make all the people toil up there, for they are few. So about 3,000 men from the people went up there, but they fled from the men of Ai. The men of Ai struck down about 36 of the men and pursued them from the gate as far as that place, and struck them down on the descent. So the hearts of the people melted and became as water. Now we hit on that a couple of minutes ago. Their hearts melted. Why? The Lord had promised to be with us and that no one would be able to stand. And look at here. What's happening? Exactly. As long as you obey me. And again, that disobedience was only known to who? Achan and his family. So you can see the confusion of the other people. How is this happening? He has promised us. All right? He has promised us. Joshua, unaware of Achan's sin against God, sent men to Ai with instructions to go up and spy out the land. The men did as Joshua commanded. The spies returned and reported that only about 2,000 or 3,000 men would be needed to defeat Ai because the people were few. About 3,000 men proceeded into battle, and they fled from the men of Ai. And all the men of Ai struck down about 36 and pursued them from the gate as far as Shebarim. And the hearts of the Israelite people melted and became as water. This failure at Ai reflected a breach of the covenant of God and gave Israel's enemies hope that the nation could be defeated. So this just opened up a box of red wigglers. All right? Not only the suffering that came down on people, the soldiers that were killed, their families, and it's mentioned right here what else was happening. Now, there was doubt. Okay? Now, there was not only doubt with the Israelites, because God, as they saw it, had done what? Turned his back on it. Okay? Didn't know of the reason. Okay? And what else is suggested here that happened as a result of them being defeated? What were they afraid of at that point? Amorites. Other people were going to hear about that and go, you know what? Hey, we can do this. Get everybody else all jacked up about it. All right? I.e., that other people were going to have a firm standing of them, opposed to what we read about when people had what opinion of the Israelites? Oh, we know what happened over here. We know what happened over there. All right? So, it's just a snowball effect. Do you, yes, do you think that in a way do we submit to that same type of philosophy today in dealing with people? What about raising your kids? Okay? Yeah, I remember hearing that. It's going to hurt me a lot more than it hurts you. Yeah, right. Okay? I can remember thinking that. And no one enjoys, a parent does not enjoy having to discipline that child. But what does that discipline afford them? And it's important that you do discipline them because of that. Okay? There are lessons to be learned. Yes, that's right. And, yes, mold their behavior, okay? How we raise them, all right? Those are important things. Some people see it harsh as time. Kids certainly see it as being harsh, all right? But they're just things that need to be done for the sake of that child. All right? Now, sometimes, I don't do it with my grandbabies, that's different. All right? Grandbabies are different. So, but with your children, you know, I can remember my kids being in somewhere, Walmart or something. Daddy, can I have that? Nope. Well, why? I don't owe you an explanation why. Okay? And we do that because what? Kids need to hear no sometimes. All right? Kids need to hear no. They need to know that things aren't always going to go their way. They're not always going to get the things that they want, okay? Because they need to see those things. Is that life? That's not life when they get everything they want, is it? No. All right? That's our responsibility as parents. You know, and I'm sure I'm going to step on a toe. All right? But, hear me out. I've often said or had concerns, even with some of my family, homeschooling. Okay? And I say that in this view. Children need to be around other children so that they can learn certain things. Conflict resolution. How's a child going to learn conflict resolution if they're only around mom and daddy? It's hard to do. It's hard to do, okay? Kids need to be able to handle things in different situations, okay? And if a kid has never been around anybody but mama and daddy, when they get out in the world, do you think it's going to be difficult for them? Yeah, yeah. And that's my point, okay? No harm, no foul with people that believe in homeschooling. There's other sides to it as well. But it's something that I think we should think about, because that is our responsibility as a parent, okay? Whether you accept it or not, you ain't got to accept it for it to be your responsibility, okay? So I think that it's important that we set those rules. We set those rules hard enough where there are harsh consequences. What is harsh? Well, you know, what's your definition of that? Today, take a kid's phone, that's harsh. It's child abuse. They're going to call 911. All right? So harsh is in the eye of the beholder. But those lines have to be drawn in the sand. They can't a wind blow it and erase it. And the hardest thing is being consistent in that. Okay? Being consistent. Those hard lines have to be set and they have to be followed. Can you see that going on here? And it's important for us to learn that lesson and apply it in our lives today, okay? It is our responsibility. It's our responsibility. All right, let's, where we at now? 2 through 5. All right, verses 6 through 9. Let's read these. Then Joshua tore his clothes and fell on the earth on his face before the ark of the Lord until the evening, both he and the elders of Israel, and they put dust on their heads. Joshua said, Alas, O Lord, why did you ever bring this people over the Jordan only to deliver us into the hands of the Amorites to destroy us? If only we had been willing to dwell beyond the Jordan. O Lord, what can I say since Israel has turned their back before their enemies? For the Canaanites and all the inhabitants of the land will hear of it, and they will surround us and cut us off our name from the earth. And what will you do for your great name? So what's happening? They do not understand what is going on. They don't understand the significance. They don't understand the magnitude of that. They're seeing the magnitude of that, but they're thinking it's what? God has left them, okay? I think they'd been stoned a lot sooner, don't you? Yeah. And you know, they didn't know what was going to happen. All they knew is what the Lord had told them. You know, I'll be with you as long as. As long as. Some of the biggest words in there, okay? As long as you do what? Follow me and do as I have instructed. Now, he didn't say what all the consequence of that was going to be, okay? However, the consequences were harsh, okay? Israel being defeated, the lives of the men, the warriors that were lost, you know, that impacts the family. And now as we see, like we talked about a minute ago, what is their fear? Oh, other people are going to hear about this. And it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. All righty. Let's see. After the devastating loss, Joshua experienced his grief to the Almighty, God, he had torn his clothes and fell on the earth, on his face, before the ark of the Lord until the evening. Further, both he and the elders of Israel demonstrated their sorrow by what? What else? Putting dust on their head. Okay? What was that a sign of? Renting their clothes, putting dust on their head. Okay? Sorrowful. Fell on their face. That's what happened when. Yeah, yeah, and we see that throughout the death of a child or something. What do you see happening? Tearing of the clothes, putting dust on their head. It was a sign of mourning, maybe to a big extent. Certainly, they were mourning after these events. Should have been. All right, verse 7 through 9. Where am I at? Joshua said, Alas, O Lord God, why did you ever bring this people over to the Jordan to deliver them to the hands? I done read that, hadn't I? For the Canaanites and the inhabitants. All right, get my place again here. Now, the disgrace of this defeat caused the people and the Lord, or caused the people and the Lord was a terrible thing to Joshua. He struggled to understand and asked the Lord, why did you ever bring us here over the Jordan only to deliver us to the hands of our enemies? There again, he has no clue what has happened or what has went on. He regretted that the Israelites had entered into the land of Canaan. He further pleaded with God, what can I say since Israel has turned their back? They were afraid that what? Their enemies now hearing of this would surround them, and Joshua was also concerned not only for the fact they anticipated problems with the other people, okay, but he was also concerned about what? How was the word of the Lord going to continue if the Lord was going to allow them to keep being what? Wiped out. How's that going to continue? After all, they were there for a reason, were they not? How is that going to be able to continue if we're not here and we're wiped out? There again, we have no idea, or they have no idea at this point what's going on. It's just the Lord had turned his back on them. That's all they saw. Verse 10. So the Lord said to Joshua, rise up. Why is it that you have fallen on your face? Israel has sinned, and they have also transgressed my covenant, which I commanded them. And they have even taken some of the things under the ban and have both stolen and deceived. Moreover, they have also put them among their own things. Therefore, the sons of Israel cannot stand before their enemies. They turn their backs before their enemies, for they have become accursed. I will not be with you anymore unless you destroy the things under the ban from your midst. Rise up, consecrate the people, and say, consecrate yourselves for tomorrow, for thus the Lord, the God of Israel, has said, there are things under the ban in your midst, O Israel. You cannot stand before your enemies until you have removed these things under the ban from your midst. In the morning, then you shall come near by tribes, and it shall be that the tribe which the Lord takes by lot shall come near by families, and the family which the Lord takes shall come near by households, and the households which the Lord takes shall come near man by man. It shall be that the one who is taken with the things under the ban shall be burned with fire, he and all that belongs to him, because he has transgressed the covenant of the Lord, and because he has committed a disgraceful thing to Israel. Now, I submit to you that at that moment, Joshua had a aha moment. Okay? And I'm over time. So we will pick up there after verse 15 next week. But just in closing, now it's coming to light what has happened and what's going on. So now Joshua has an idea of why these things have happened. Okay? And we will pick up there next week. Thank you for your attention. And I didn't mean to keep y'all late. But I'm not going to assign any homework. Good morning. There you go. I'll put it back up there. I forgot. I'm doing good.